Hey, hi guys, welcome back. So let's continue with our Tosca interview questions and answer series, which is part 4. Okay, so part 3 we have already seen, and let's continue with part 4. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so the first um, question is, what is the difference between a Tosca date format and Tosca target format? Okay, so if you would have noticed, when we use a date in our Tosca, okay, so it will take some default format. Okay, so we will see what is date Tosca date format and what is Tosca target format. Okay, so Tosca date format is the base or default format which Tosca uses in this format dd.mm.yy, where D stands for date and capital M stands for month and small y stands for year. Okay, and Tosca target format is the expected date format. So, for example, your um, application, okay, uh, will expect any date, okay, any date format which is different from the base format. So this target format also will take the same dd.mm.yy, but if your application under test is using some different format, okay, so that time you can use a Tosca target format. Okay, so let me quickly show you where you can see this base default format. Okay, so let me jump to Tosca and click on project and then settings. So under setting, you can navigate to T box. After that, dynamic temporal expressions. Okay, so you can see here we have target date format, which is the format which I showed dd.mm.yyyy. Okay, and you can see here Tosca date format as well, which is the same as the target format. Okay, this is the base format which Tosca by default it will be defined. Okay, so if there is different format you want, you can change here, which will be changed globally. Okay, so every test will follow that same format. Okay, so let me show you one small example quickly. Okay, so this is one test case. Let me take one T box set buffer. Okay, okay, so now let me just create one date function. Okay, so it will take this 3 parameter. Okay, so now I am not providing anything in any of the brackets. Okay, so let's see what it will generate. Okay, translate value. So you can see here now it has given output in dd.mm.yyyy format, because this is the base format or default format we have. Okay, what in case suppose here in the base date, first bracket will be the base date. Okay, so I am passing the date in this format. Okay, 2025, which is today's date. Okay, let's translate and check. So it's throwing error by saying the value, the date which I have given cannot be interpreted as date according to dd.mmy.yyyy format, because Tosca is set with this default format, base format. Okay, but we are giving into a different format, so it is not accepting and throwing error. This value cannot be treated as a date. Okay, so what one solution is, you can go to settings and change the format. Instead of dd dot, you can change in this format. Okay, at the settings. Okay, which will be applied to all the test cases. Okay, but in case if we want only particular to this test case, what you can do, you can just create a test configuration parameter. Just type yes Tosca date format and change the format d d m m and y y y. So this is the format which we are giving right in our test case. Okay, you can see here dd.mm.yy. Okay, now let's translate and check. See, now it is accepting and giving us output. Okay, let me just give some offset. So output, you can see +1 day. Okay, just I am giving +1 day, so you can see it will give tomorrow's date in dot dot format, because target format is also in dd.mm.yy, which I showed in our ppt here, dd.mm.yy. But if in case your application is accepting some different format, okay, the same format you want, so you can define here directly dd slash mm slash yyy. Okay, now let's translate and check. Okay, translate value. See, it is giving in this format. If you want to change into some other format, you can change here. Suppose if your application accept in hyphen format, so you can give with hyphen that format and you can translate. So this is our target format and this is our Tosca date format, the base format. Okay, so if you want to change any base format, just define one configuration parameter and then just provide the format which you want. Okay, so it will be only applicable to this particular test, and rest of the test cases will follow dd.mm.yyy format. Okay, okay, let's jump to the next question. Okay, so this we have already seen. Next one is, what is the resolved reference RTB? Okay, what happens when we use? Okay, so 1 second. So what is RTB? It's reusable test step block. Okay, so whenever we create library and whenever we want to use the library, we drag and drop into our test case. So it will create a reference of this library. Okay, so the question will be, what is resolve reference? Okay, so there might be a scenario. Okay, so the same library you're using in some multiple cases, test case, suppose some 10 test cases, and out of 10 test cases, in one of the test cases I want to update something, okay, in the library. But what problem will happen if you directly update in the library, then it will affect, okay, it will update into all the references. Okay, so other 9 test cases might not need that step. Okay, so it won't be feasible to update in the RTB. So in that case, what you can do, you can right click on the library and then you will get option resolve reference. So if you resolve the reference, then that connection between that library will get disconnect. Okay, now it will no longer refer to that same RTB. Okay, so whatever changes you will do, it will not affect, okay, other libraries. Okay, it will be confined to that particular test case. Okay, so the same thing I have mentioned here. You can see this allow you to modify the copied test step without affecting the original RTB or other RTB references. Okay, so it won't do any changes or it won't affect the original RTB. Okay, and the test cases which are using that reference. Okay, so same thing which I told I have mentioned here. So you can read it out. Okay, let's jump to next question. So your script is failing because the web page taking time to load certain elements. So how do you handle this in Tosca? Okay, so sometimes we will face this issue when we are launching something or we are navigating to some web page and the control is taking time, okay, to load. Okay, so in that situation, how we handle is, there are couple of ways we have. Okay, so Tosca provides some wait mechanism. Okay, so to handle this scenario, so we have both static wait as well as dynamic wait. Okay, so most of the time we should avoid using the static wait. Okay, because it will affect our Tosca execution. time. Okay, so always we have to try to use the dynamic wait. Okay, so the dynamic wait is wait on. Okay, you will see this option under the action mode. Okay, we have wait on statement. Okay, if you put wait on, okay, and in the setting you will have the timing. Okay, you set the timing for wait on, so till that time it will wait. Okay, before if in a specified time whatever we have mentioned, if the element is loading before that, then it will go ahead with the next step. Okay, so that's why it is called dynamic wait. The next one is static wait. Okay, which is a t-box wait. We have a module under timings. Okay, under standard module. So why we call this as static wait? Because in this module it will take one parameter. It will ask us to give some time which is in millisecond. So suppose if we are giving timing of 10 second, then irrespective of element loading time, it will wait for 10 seconds. If the element is loading in 5 seconds also, it will wait for 10 seconds. If it loads within one second, then also it will wait for 10 seconds, because it's a static wait or hard wait. Okay, and third way is like synchronization timeout. So we have a synchronization timeout in the settings. Okay, so there also you can adjust the time. Okay, there you can change the timing. Some by default some time will be mentioned there. So based on the control loading time, you can increase the time. Okay, so that it will wait for the element to load, and after that you can perform the action. Okay, you can read out all these things. I'm not reading it. Okay, let's move to next question. What is test mandate? How do you achieve this using Tosca? So normally what happens when we work in um, project, okay, where you have three four 3 to 4 automation testers. Okay, and then when it comes for the execution, and you have a single execution list, for example, and if a resource want to execute, means they will check out and they will execute. That time you might face issue, because once any resource did check out, means you cannot use that. Okay, so in that case, what you can do, you can use a test mandate feature where you will create a separate execution list, and you will pull your cases into the test mandate, and then you can do the execution. Okay, that's what I have mentioned here. You can read it out. Okay, so the benefit is like multiple testers can execute a different part of test suite. Okay, concurrently, as I said, you can execute, okay, without any blockers. Okay, and results from one test mandate do not overwrite results from another. Okay, so once you execute, you can see your logs, okay, in the test mandate as well as in the original execution list. So let me show you quickly. Okay, so this is my execution list. Okay, and I will create one test mandate. You can see this option here, create test mandate. Okay, so let me just give me some name, new execution list. Okay, and this is my execution list. Okay, this is my execution list, main execution list. I have created test mandate. So from this, consider this test case I want to execute. Okay, and rest other test cases will be executed by some other tester, and this last two will be executed by some other tester. So they will create a test mandate. Okay, now I have pulled one test case, okay, into my test mandate. Let me just quickly execute it. Okay, so the test case is passed. Okay, and you can see here the logs here in the test mandate, and the same will get update here also. You can see for today's date 11/5, and you can see this arrow. So this is the test mandate we have used. So you see the logs here as well as it will update into the original execution list. So different tester can execute concurrently. Okay, otherwise what will happen, if some tester has checked it out, means you cannot access this. Okay, so this is the benefit of using test mandate. Okay, let's move to next question. Okay, so what is the difference between exist and visible in verify action mode? Okay, so you would have seen in Tosca. Okay, let me jump to a test case here. In the action mode, you can see this weight on, I was talking about this dynamic weight. Okay, so now I was I just jumped here to show that exist and verify. Okay, so if you can see here, okay, here we have exist. Okay, and for some control we will, if you check for some control here, okay, this is buffer, so it is giving only option as exist. But if you check for some control, okay, so let's see, let me just drag and drop, okay, here. And if you can see for this control, it is giving us option as exist as well as visible, both option. Okay, but technically if you see, both will do almost the same functionality. Okay, so there is one minor difference. Okay, so exist means it is used to check whether if control is exist or not in the page. Okay, and it has two possible values, true or false. Okay, visible also will do the same, but just read it. It is used to check the control is exist, but still control is visible or not. Sometimes control will be exist, but it takes some time to get visible. Okay, so that time we can use this visible, which is having both properties true and false. So both you can use. Okay, the both will do the same work for us. Okay. There's no major difference. But let's see the next question. How to use TCD to handle positive and negative cases. Okay, so in when you work with the project, for sure you will be having both positive as well as negative test cases. Okay, and many times we will be segregating the positive cases as well as negative test cases. Okay, and so how do we handle that with TCD? Okay, so with TCD, yes, we can handle both positive and negative test cases. Okay, by applying some sorry, by applying some conditions. Okay, in the test case design sheet, we'll apply create some attribute, and then we will define as a negative and positive instances. And for the test cases, we will define, if we want some test cases as a positive, then we will mark that test cases as positive. Okay, and for negative also we'll do the same. And while creating instances, okay, that time we can apply condition at the instance level as well, to segregate, to create a separate instance for positive cases and separate instance for negative cases. Okay, so for this I have already shown in one of my video. I will show you here as well. You can see here in the template. Okay, so there are separate instances I have created for positive and negative. Okay, so let's jump to the test sheet and see. This is one test sheet where I have three test cases, and the first case is positive case and other two are negative cases. Just consider that. So what I have done, I have just created one attribute, okay, and named as scenario, and created two instances, positive and negative. So first one is positive, so I have just assigned positive to first test case and rest negative. Okay, when we comes to the instances, so you can see in the instance level I have applied condition, scenario equals to positive and scenario equals to negative. So positive we had one test case, so you can see for one test case, and negative we had two test cases, so it has derived two negative test cases here. So this is how you can handle the negative and positive scenario. Okay, if you want to segregate it at the template instance level. Okay, Let's jump to next question. This is one sample Excel sheet I have, okay, where I have some set of records, okay. So the question is based on that Excel, like, is it possible to get the row count of Excel without defining cell range? Okay. So generally, you would be knowing whenever we work with Excel, okay, we use the Excel modules, okay. So to work with Excel, we need to define the range. Till date, we are coming and with defining the range, okay. So let me just show you that as well. Excel scenario, okay. So you can see here in Excel define sorry tbox define Excel range. We used to define start and end cell, okay. So this question is bit different, like it is asking, can we get the row count without defining the range? Okay, is it possible? So yes, it is possible to get the total row count without defining the cell range, but how? Okay, you can see I have just pasted the snapshot of the steps. So you can see this first step is to open the Excel, okay, and the second is to define Excel range. And you can see here in start and end range, sorry, start cell and end cell, I have kept it as blank, okay. I have not defined any range here, cell range, but in the data range I have given used range, okay. And then in the next step I am taking the row count, okay. So this will give us the count as 18, okay. So I have already a test case get row count. You can see the same I have taken a snapshot. So let me run and just show you the result, okay. So the row count I am storing in buffer called r, small r, okay. So let me open buffer viewer, okay, and show you the count. See, you can see the count has been set to 18, and in the screenshot you can see in the Excel sheet I have 18 rows available, okay. So this is how you can use without defining the Excel range, okay. So the next question is, let's say we have a test case contains 6 test steps, the fourth one is optional, okay, and we will execute the fourth one as per our requirement. So how can we do that, okay. So we have six test steps, okay, in one test case. Out of six, there is a one test step at the fourth, which is the fourth test step, which is optional, which is not required for all the test cases. This is required only for specific requirement, okay. So how we can handle that? So we can handle with in two ways, okay. The first one is like we can use inbuilt conditioning feature, okay, to use or skip the fourth test step if a certain condition is met, okay. So same way how I used a positive and negative scenario. So what you can use, you can create one attribute, okay, and define some instance like required or not required, okay. So in the test case what you will do, that particular for test case, if that um, step, we will define condition as required is yes, okay, required is yes or true, then that particular step will be picked, otherwise it will be skipped, okay. If you are not aware of conditioning, okay, in the test case level, you can see my video. In one of my video I have shown how we can use conditioning, okay, at the test step level, test case level, okay. And second way is like you can use if else condition, okay. This will be useful if you have any value which is getting generated within the test case, and based on that value you want to apply the condition, okay. So that time you can use if condition, okay. If that whatever value which is getting generated within the test case. Okay, so that test case you can use that condition. If condition is satisfied, then execute the fourth step, like that. If condition is not getting satisfied, then skip that fourth step. Okay, so these two ways you can handle it. Okay, let's jump to next test case. So the next test case is we have a field that contains already a value, and now we want to remove that value using Tosca. So how can we do that? Okay, so basically what it is. So this is one demo web shop application. Here we have an email field. Okay, so for example, there is some text already mentioned. Okay, and we have to remove it. Okay, and then we have to enter. So when we can do that. Okay, so in demo web shop module I have drag and drop, and in the email field I have just mentioned the same syntax which I have shown in the PPT. Okay, the delete one. Okay, so let's try this. The control should select the text and then click on delete button. You can see it selected the text and then clicked on delete button. Okay, so this is working for us. Let's try another one, the second approach with backspace. Okay, let me first enter some text here. Okay, and then let me run. This will also do the same task for us. Okay, so it selected and then it clicked on backspace. So both method is working for us. Okay, let's quickly jump to the next question. Okay, so why do we use identify by property as first identifying element? So whenever you try to scan any web page, okay, so as soon as you start scanning, you will see by default it will show the technical properties. Okay, for the web elements which are available in that page. Okay, so by default Tosca uses the technical properties, okay, to identify the objects. So let's see why we use, because the properties are the primary method for identify control or elements. Okay, and it is the fastest and the easiest way to identify controls. Okay, and if you are going with another identification, for example, apart from properties, if you are going with either index or going with identify by anchor, so that approach will also work for us, but the problem is that will take little bit of time, which eventually affect our execution time. Okay, so that's why we always use the properties default technical properties. Okay, so that what we'll do at runtime, it will be very fast in identifying, then performing action on that. Okay, let's see the next question. So what is CI/CD and how are you using it? Okay, so as you might all know, CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. Okay, so using CI/CD, let me tell you in short. Okay, CI/CD basically we use to schedule our test cases. Okay, so we use DEX, which stands for distributed execution, through which we can um, divide our execution, okay, into different agents. Okay, and with the help of agents we can execute our test cases. Okay, so if in case if we have so many execution so many test cases which we need to execute in short span of time, then we can go for Dex, which will do the job for us. Okay, so if you want our the if you want to schedule our test cases in an unattended mode, then we can configure the CI/CD, and then we can schedule our test cases. Okay, so all this by end of this month you will see a video on Dex as well as CI/CD integration. Okay, in my channel. So okay, so stay tuned. Okay, we'll that's all for this scenario, guys. We'll meet again with the new video. Thank you. Bye bye.